mentioned wealth being accumulated by the certain parts of the continuity class, apparently out here, based upon getting exclusive franchises. But let me see if I can turn you somewhere close to a triangle and be a bit more specific and turn it in another direction. And that is, first let me state a fact, that the fastest road to wealth is through the elimination of competition. Out there, a small group of people, less than 4% of them, is all that life needs, has always understood that. Always, always, always. They did not have to go to Harvard, and they don't need BAs. And sad to say, if the other 96% of the people had anything resembling what the dictionary describes as intelligence, they would even have some inkling of the idea. But things being so pleasantly arranged, so that Warner Brothers is sort of in charge of life, nobody notices. But the fastest way to wealth, and now of course take wealth somewhere beyond the literal, but I'm still going to start out there perhaps for a second. The fastest way is the elimination of competition. At the very least, you'd have to look at it as being the reduction. But those that really know what they're doing in life, those that life really need to use, simply have always arranged in some area of the planet where they are in operation, where they are serving life's purpose in a very specialized way. They arrange with the governments, with those that apparently are outside the institutions of economics, but arrange with them so that they eliminate competition. There's a certain aspect to this that I used to hope that some of you, when I'd point out such as this, would find humorous. I'm beginning to give it up, since most of you can't even see them when I point them out. But in those areas where they eliminate competition, life also arranges something else. It arranges that by and large in the fabric of life, the feeling is that it's for the benefit of the people. Prime example, if none of you can follow this, is the areas in most states referred to as public services, utilities. That it's for the public good, the common good, that there not be rampant, uncontrollable competition in such an important area. Right. Now, rather than me just say I'm going to turn it internally, but you know that using that kind of crude terminology that I seem to have to continue with, we will play like that. Some of this I'm referring internally, and then other times I'll skip back and apparently I'm talking about city life. But those of you that will ever aspire to having any intelligence, it's all the fucking same thing. But now let me point out, apparently starting off in the internal realm, having nothing whatsoever to do with robber barons, elimination of economic competition. We're talking about now a good old world of the psychological self, all of your internal operations. How could someone attempting to do whatever this is use that piece of information, which is it's really a prime cut. It's over a pound's worth, even on today's market of information. That is, that the fastest road to competition, to wealth, is the elimination of competition. Did I lay on that enough? There's no exceptions, there are no conditions, there's nothing you can come up with. If you've got a business, if you've got an enterprise, and they have arranged for the king, for the powers that be, to eliminate all competition in this enterprise, there is nothing that even comes close. If I must be so crude, nothing. You can hire up teams and teams of people, MBAs. You can just do it. You can build. You can do R&R. You can do anything you want to. You can do the greatest in-depth marketing research. You can have an unlimited, I repeat, an unlimited advertising budget. Think about it. There in that kingdom. It doesn't even come close. It's not even worthy of sweating in the same ball game as an undertaking that has eliminated competition. Because if you've eliminated competition, anything beyond collecting your money is moot. Now, try and keep that in mind. Now, how might this be used internally? Because it is an absolute fact. Life uses it, as I said, believe it or not. I pointed out utilities, and almost all of you went, oh, ha, that's true. But that's another way that life operates. You can say, aha, that's true, but you don't ever think about that. I point out. I'm not saying that there's something that you can do about it or there's some reason that you should, but it's just a piece of information that is not necessary for 96% at the very least of the world's population to realize. And it's always, you might notice, it always comes down more and more to areas. It changes from time to time, whereas in times past life was burning up the fuel of human labor, but now it's closer. Then it went through a period of burning up non-viable resources, and now it's to the point that the main thing it's burning up is human intelligence, the so-called information and service era. But it has gone through at one time to eliminate the competition 500 years ago. You got the king to eliminate anyone competing with you mining iron ore, because that's where the big bucks were. And now it would be that you would eliminate anyone in certain areas like communication, so that you have got the only wires, the only routes to move information within a certain area that you have eliminated with the cooperation of somebody else, but you have eliminated all competition. All right, now internally, where I was going to try and apparently point you. This is a fact. Life uses it itself. Ordinary people do not think of it. They can hear it and say, oh yeah, you're right. But it means nothing. And I don't mean to go out and suddenly become overtaken by one of these crackpot conspiracy theories. I keep calling them crackpot so that it doesn't frighten any of you people. But those that believe in conspiracy theories, they don't understand it either, so you can forget that. But I'm not trying to see you, to put you on that basis where you go out and start bombing Pacific Bell or Con Edison or the Southern companies. But there is information that's another perfect example. There are arrangements of things and people do not see them because they're not supposed to see them. They don't need to see it. And they even hear about it, and I say, hey, there's something here. And you might go, all right. And then you forget about it. It's almost, all this is almost a waste of time, isn't it? Even though Kyruk pointed out something having to do with toothpaste and etc., but I'm going to tell you, it's real hard to put bullets back in guns. It's real hard. And of course, we're talking about back through the barrel and push them back in there. And here I stand, and all of you have already been shot, and I keep trying to stick the bullets back in. Bigger ones is what makes it worse. Bigger ones. Internally, but the way to wealth, now stretching wealth to every possible connotation, the fastest way, the most efficient way to wealth is the elimination of competition. Now internally, can you see the abandonment of your apparent inner competitive interest? If not, how about this? Now, we're not talking about people doing anything willfully. We're talking about life, firing people off. Some people are 22, some are 38, some are unknown calibers. Some are blanks. But those in life outside the area of economics, which we can't call an art, but in the areas wherein people seem to singularly succeed, normally referred to as the arts, that includes sports. What seems to be one of the characteristics? I'll answer you. They seem to be single-minded. Do they not? And of course, it's one step removed from that for ordinary people to read about that Vladimir Ashkenazi says that he grew up and starting at the age of 3, he practiced 5 hours a day while the other kids were out playing softball and looking at Playboy. And so, those outside who might have some passing interest and musical genius, if not talent, then can think what? If I had done that, I could play like that. No, you couldn't, because you wouldn't have practiced like that. Everything. If you could play like that, you'd play like that. The bullet would still be in the gun, or else you would have hit it when you first fired. It's not true. So just at the ordinary level, not that these people have any notion whatsoever of what they're doing any more than somebody who's a music critic, or somebody who's tone deaf, or somebody who says, I could have done that had I wasted my childhood. But it seems to be in those that just at the ordinary city level that seem to excel at something. It just happens. They seem to have, more than average, a lack of internal conflicting interest. And they say, well, what else did you like to do besides practice the piano? And the guy here is 80 years old and he goes, nothing. Were you always sketching as a child? They asked of Picasso. Yep, that's all I ever did. Did you ever have any doubt what you were going to be? Nope. I mean, none. You never thought, boy, it's hard to make a living. No, I knew it was that, or I'd die. There was just never any question. I was going to be a famous painter. That's it. That's all I wanted to do. You got any more questions? I got to go. All right, now beyond the area of the hardwiring, beyond the area of just what happens. Now we're talking, of course, willfully. If somebody had any ability to play around with the ammo that was in their own gun to try and reload themselves, that is, to try and do something out of the ordinary, just a teeny bit, like showing some signs of human intelligence. It would do you well, I suggest, if you remember that the fastest way to wealth is the elimination of competition. Decide what it is you want to do. I still love it, and I still fall for it. I'll still respond here to people out of town, the other groups. They'll write me, or people that read a book of, oh, I've read or I've heard you, and it meant so much to me. My whole life has almost changed, except I can't seem to stay with it. I have weeks, I have months I go through, and boy, what can I do? What do you want to do? Of course, I don't answer that crude. I've always been Mr. Nice Guy. You know, what do you want to do? Oh, well, I'm just sure that I want to do this. Whatever this is, if I can just see it through then, this is what I want to do. You know, why don't you do it? Well, I've been real busy. My back was hurt, and I've had headaches, and plus my fourth girlfriend this year left me. Competition. Nothing wrong with it. You're not psychologically maimed. You're no dumber than anybody else. But remember, I still like this one if you don't. It's not required that you be exceptionally dumb, just dumb. So at least in that one area, if you never proceed in any other direction, always remember this. If you're left back where you started, where I found you, or vice versa, remember this. At least back there, nothing exceptional is required, because it's not required that you be exceptionally dumb, just dumb. Everybody measures up in the city. Now, I know they don't feel like they do, but I assure you, everybody measures up in the city. In the city, everybody's somebody. Dumb, but everybody's somebody. When I say the internal elimination of apparent conflicting interest, of course, it does not mean just, I'm not excluding this, but I am not, of course, just referring to if you keep claiming that you always wanted to go to med school, or that you wanted to be an attorney, or that you wanted to paint. It's not just for me to say, go ahead and do it. I'm not excluding that. But I am, of course, at least trying to hint to you something beyond that. That if you're actually going to try to do something extraordinary, you've got to cut out the competition. If you can cut out competition, do you also understand that you would never have another damn excuse in your life for you to ask you, somebody else to say, why did you do so-and-so, or why did you fail to do so-and-so? And you go, well, there wouldn't be any well. That's a conflicting interest. You got somebody in competition with you. Now, of course, ordinary people look at it another way. But if any of you can hear anything, it is absolutely, it's an internal form of competition. For you to have any excuse and to say, well, whatever the hell comes after that. Well, I forgot. Well, I thought I did it. Did not do it. I was going to do it later. Anything that comes after well, comma, is competition. And you're not going to get wealthy. You may not even stay in business. Oh, you'll stay in business another 30 or 40, 50 years. But as far as being successful, as far as you feeling like, well, my little endeavor amounted to something, especially not in light of you having any itch regarding this. Another way, let me give you some variations of what I started saying about using this, but another way that you could look at it is take a slight step sideways, as Professor Daffy would say. I wish I could attract, since we got that people meet in California, I don't know why you can't attract somebody good out there like Daffy Duck over to see some of the tapes. There's another way. You could look at the intent to eliminate competition as being a kind of lapse of the internal entanglements that are of a kind of conflicting interest, and they go into guises of being conflicting ideas between, like, what is true and proper and correct and what is fallacious and unfit and forbidden. All of the great eternal binary struggles, all the way from what would appear to be intellectual realms into the so-called spiritual realms. There would be an abandonment of that. But do you see the idea? Let's go back to real primitive times and tempt the beast that's still around, even though you don't have a proper tattoo reminding you that the beast is always near. Especially if you got the tattoo in the right spot. It is competition, good to evil. If there was such a thing as the simpletons, as the primitives among you believe, this kind of external, this kind of objective good and evil, stuff, things, although everything's a thing, but that this is actually packaged goods. Do you understand that if there is good and evil, and there were gods in charge of setting this up, do you understand that the gods do not even have the fiscal and business acumen of a J.P. Morgan or a Montague Norman? Because if a god knew what the hell he was doing, good and evil wouldn't be in competition. He would have got an exclusive franchise. And he would have put bad, that is evil, out of business. You personally have got to understand that that is an entanglement that no one benefits from. No one wins. Smith never puts Jones out of business. Good never puts evil out of business. They're conflicting interests. They're in competition, and as long as they're needed, one is not going to run the other out of the marketplace. There is a, if you can follow it right quick, there is a slightly different twist to that when it seems to go into the higher area if we're going to try and talk about the world of the intellect, of ideas as opposed to feelings, which is nebulous if not misnamed, but I'll go ahead and do it, that there would seem to be perhaps a slightly different spin that that true and false are not in competition, and that once the truth is known, it can drive the bad untruth out of the marketplace. But hold on. Hold on to your yellow circuit drawers. Think about it. Does the so-called truth at the city level drive out the so-called untruth? Think about it. Try. Come on. Damn it, try. Now, you could say it does. You could say, whether this be true or not, you could say that large numbers of people at the end of the so-called Dark or Middle Ages believed that the world was flat. That's a common semi-historical, semi-literate joke piece of history. Did they believe that? And then Columbus, another right-thinking people, sailed off and came back and said it's not. And so the truth that the world is not flat drove out the untruth that the world was flat. Is that correct? Is it? When I said try real hard, because some of your nervous systems, many of them should say, well, yes, that is. Is it? Where did the untruth go? Where did it disappear to? I got to tell you again, people can play for shekels, dollars, pounds. You can get up, you can switch places at the table. Some people, every now and then, this is really off the point, try and demand a new game. But it won't happen. Nobody leaves the room. You can get up from the table, you can switch places, but the game goes on. The cards are dealt, and to say that, well, the truth runs the untruth out of the marketplace, it is there in the room. That room is hermetically sealed. There is conflicting, competing interest between what seems to be proper and improper, what seems to be true and untrue, and what seems to be good and bad, good and evil, in some moralistic or would-be spiritualist sense. But none of them, from either column, from either count, triumphs, or they would not still be in competition. You would have no such concept as good and evil, right and wrong, proper and improper, acceptable and forbidden. Don't you see that? The competition continues. You, if you're going to use this kind of information, this kind of useless information, I should be more specific, if you're going to use this, you have got to abandon yourself those kind of useless, circular, inescapable entanglements. You've got to eliminate the competition, is what you're doing. If you can find out how to transcend, how to escape those kind of binary, useless entanglements. A slight variation of that, if you can see that you need to forsake those kind of ordinary pictures that the nervous system has, the kind of competition that is normally referred to as such things as position, rank, wealth, popularity, all of that. I will repeat again for you and your people, this has got nothing to do with you going months and weeks without bathing. It has nothing to do with you becoming a bum on the street. It has, I'm not even inferring that it should interfere in any particular way with your external life, your ordinary life as it is now. And it does not mean that you shouldn't try to get all the money you want if you want any money. That you shouldn't try to be famous if you want to be famous. That you shouldn't try to grow another 2 inches if you want to grow another 2 inches. All of that, go ahead, I don't care. I don't care. But, internally, if you were intelligent, you would forsake that. Now, I don't care, and you don't have to, but that rank, that standing, the recognition has any effect on you. Of course, if it has any effect on you, it has some effect on you. And if you believe it has any effect on you, it has some effect on you. So we can't change that, can we? Can't put the bullet back. But anybody that belongs in this very shortly has to get close enough to realize that it has no effect. I know I can slip back to being me, and it has some effect. I can feel it. It's just as real as anything. Right. It is. It is. And if it is, it is. And if it is, it is, it is. And I don't care. Do you care? One way to wrap up for the time being. A potential inner use of the law. The fact is better than the law. But the fastest way to wealth is through elimination of competition. And so to wrap up all that I've said and look at it as being the kind of cessation of the apparent struggle and competition that people have with oneself. Because that is the verbal coda, climax, wrap-up of everything I've said, that you are in some way in competition with yourself. Now, that's not the term that's normally used. It's normally looked at with more religious people as it's your better part, your more valiant and honorable part, and some kind of life and death struggle with your baser parts. or a few people I used to hope might have more of an approach that it's your dumb self as opposed to hopefully a more intelligent self. But you just got to go with what you got to go with, I guess. But if you can cease being personally involved with the competition with yourself, with oneself, it's just another way of looking at that as every manifestation of guilt known to man, every form of anger, every form of distress, every form of fear. It is a competition going on, apparently. A competition and a struggle inside with oneself. And it's been going on now that even you know of for sure. I point out to you that even you people know for sure it's been going on a good, easy, comfortable 3,500 years, and not one motherfucker's ever realized that. Oh, if you have, but that don't count. They're dead. And you wouldn't know what they were talking about if they were still alive. So in general, nobody knows that. And it's called how many things? Well, I just named 4 or 5. Look in the dictionary. If it's a noun, if it's a wet verb, it would probably fit. They're all synonyms for that term, for that idea of a struggle with oneself, an apparent inner competition with oneself. How in the world can that be? Not only do people don't want to think about it, people can't think about it, but if they do think about it, they would still miss the real point. They might say, well, it has to do because the gods made our nature such a... And of course, if I was a more aggressive type, I might want to grab somebody and pistol whip them and say, no, you missed it. You missed it already. I just knew you would, and you did. It's not, how might this come about? The real question is, how are you in competition with yourself? How come the basic premise, God forbid I should use such a term, but I did. The basic premise not only is not questioned, people can't look at it. I could say, well, you're missing the basic premise. They go, where? It's right under you. No, it's not. No, it's not. And they're right, it's not. Because it would take the intelligence of being able to go, oh, yeah, I'm standing on it. That's it. Something else, as long as we're being crude, I know that many people, if they just walk by this casually, or if they were carpenters riding by on a speeding horse, so that they wouldn't notice their sloppy work, they might say that regardless of my attempts verbally to extricate myself and to protect myself, that I bet they would say that I am oftentimes harsh and I must harbor some personal, at least subconscious animosity towards some of the more serious artistic and spiritual endeavors that life has so earnestly struggled with these many 3,500 years. They could say that. They can say it and I don't care. But I'll say it for them. They could say that. But let's be a little more specific without me trying to go into arcane and scientific terminology. Let me just point out, just directly to you. Let's just be straightforward about it, all right? The truth is, my references to religion, to poetry, to New Age writings, to all forms of metaphysical writings, almost everything that goes on in the city, we might as well face it. The kind of things that I, at one time or other, seem to have verbally expressed, if you were riding by in a hurry and tried to take this almost at face value, either yours or mine. Truth is this, though. Ordinary people are simply too dumb, are not sufficiently intelligent to be serious. That's it. There certainly has to be some need to be serious. Whatever the reality behind that word is, or people wouldn't try it. But what's unseemly is, for 3,500 years, more than 3,500 people, a lot more, have, here and there, in this way and then that, have attempted to be serious. And it's almost It's almost, I'll say for tonight, the 15th commandment. There is nothing more unseemly than being serious when you don't have the slightest notion, not the slightest notion of how to do it, over what things might one properly be serious, and lastly, and as always of the most interest, is why one might need to be serious. But does anybody who's ever been serious throughout history have any notion, any idea, any possibility of answering? Forget even considering my 3 questions? No. Guaranteed. People just are, as life shoots them out, they're just simply serious. Suddenly a woman with her hair in a bun, suddenly a man with a cane and a big wart on his nose, suddenly seem to fall on their knees and whip out a little pad or a diary, and they begin to compose poetry. Or they smoke weird things, not just last month, not just in the 1960s, and they seem to fall into some dream, and they begin to feel and rhapsodize about seeing swirling colors up in the heavens and hearing voices. And as you might expect, it's almost impossible to stop them from writing the damn thing down and writing about it. Not just in the so-called areas of art. You have people throughout these 3,500 years that even you people know about. You have these people jumping up on soapboxes on small children, jumping up on them and hollering out such things as real original stuff like, hey, the world's coming to an end. Hey, we got to overthrow the people ruling us now because they're mistreating us. And I need to take over so that I can mistreat you. We got to throw the bombs out. We got to attack our neighbors before they attack us. All of that is serious. And it gets down to, because most of you at least smiled, some of those examples, but it gets down to other stuff, the kind of stuff that a lot of you still don't like, but I don't care. The things that are already in the genes of man about how important it is to have a family and to have little children. And people treat that serious. Now we even have a new term here circa 1988, parenting. Books on it, classes on it. I see magazines on the newsstand, special, yearly, annual issue, which I guess would be a yearly issue. Parenting. And there are people now that are walking up and down the street, and they're dressed up in parenting clothes. You have certain clothes, and you spend parenting time. Then, of course, you say what people have been saying for 35 years, that children are our most important asset because they are our future. They're not the future of the person that said that, other than the genetic strain going on. No attack on children. For all you people know, I had some, so don't feel like I'm shooting at strangers, because I never shoot at strangers. I never shoot at alien creatures. If I shoot at them, I know them. If I shoot at them, they're close relatives of mine too. So don't ever you think I'm ever unfair. There's nothing wrong with children. You got to have children. If you didn't have children, you and I wouldn't be here. We all know that. But the thing about this being serious, well, I brought that up for a reason. At least any of you think that I am. Well, I bring it up because I know that some of you are wired up. Some of you now will struggle against it that are wired up. But some of you, that seems to even hurt you. It begins to pinch on your nervous system more than me hollering about the hell with God. That, to you, that's even more that you can almost bypass some of the other. There is no exception. People do not know how to be serious. It is unseemly. Now, I'm being nice. What it is dumb. But it's unseemly. People are too dumb to know how to be serious. And anything that anybody takes seriously in the city, which is your nervous system also, anything that seems serious, I give you my word, is not. And if you think that is not true, then at least those three questions I ask you, you got to admit are fair. If you're just passing for being half intelligent, a quarter intelligent, if you're going to be serious about anything, arts, politics, family, love, the future, the past, religion, I don't care what it is, if you're going to be serious, it just hits you. You got no choice to, hey, now this is serious. We're going too far because this one area is serious. All right, then tell me this. It's not a trick question. Of course, that's not true. Any decent question is a trick question because ordinary people can't answer it. I don't know who the trick's on. I guess the trick's on anybody dumb as me to ask it, but we still got a few minutes, so ask yourself, all right, I feel serious about this. I can't help it. This has got to be serious business, all right. Well, I pointed out another way. I was saying that they can't do these things. But ask yourself this way, all right, in what way should I be serious? And of course, now if you're just going to be run-of-the-mill, downtown, in-town, dumbass intelligent, then you're going to say, well, I feel like it's serious, so that's how it's serious. You know, that takes care of question number one. The second part, in what way can one be serious? Well, I guess that's what I call the first part. Specifically, so if I can requote myself, the second part would be, in what particular areas should I be serious? That is, all right, whatever struck you, family, religion, is what areas should I be serious about? Then if you could pass for being intelligent by any means, then you would be left right there at city level saying, all right, this strikes me, religion, family, children, as really serious. Then you would have to expand, at least laterally, your intelligence, your consciousness of the question, and that is you'd have to realize, well, I have neighbors. I'm surrounded by fellow creatures who do not share my feeling of seriousness in this area. You would have to, if you were going to be intelligent, find that to be of interest, that there seems to be competition even in the area that you just feel, that you just always felt that way. There just can't be any doubt that this is serious. Then why is it that I got neighbors? Why is it I got relatives that they treat it like a joke? How can that be? The third one that you would have to ask yourself is, to what end? Why is it arranged? And not the obvious that, well, family's got to be important because the race has got to keep going. You know, Jesus Christ. That's true. But can't you begin to see the way life has wired things up, that there you're standing in a goddamn line to die, and you still feel, you can't help it if you're ordinary, that the universe revolves around you. That is, well, if I don't get some children, the race will die out. Right, yeah. Well, listen, if I don't uphold the banner for Christ, for Islam, you know, if I don't do it, who will? I'll tell you who will. You know, 10 million other people will. Turn it over. We got to turn the tape over. If I can try to put your nose a little further personally into this, for me to say that the third question that somebody asked themselves, if they found themselves really feeling, really thinking that there are things in life, there are areas in life that have got to be taken seriously, then the last part that I was pointing out, the person would be asking themselves, well, may Larry bless you in some extraordinary manner. If not surprising. When I say to what end, would you to realize that this is not something, as far as any reasonable degree of intelligence would show, this is not something that is so serious that the reality behind the seriousness, the needs for life is so serious that it depends on you, that you are the linchpin, that you are the final defender, that if you don't take it serious, who is? Can you not see the folly in that? Individually. Now across the board, at the city level. The general flow of life, it is necessary. It is necessary that most people take family. Children is probably, at least in our part of the world, circa 88, is probably the supreme seriousness. It's okay, I don't care. Life needs that. But for you to feel like personally, well, if I don't have 2.5 children, and if I don't bring them up, according to Dr. Spock's grandson's book, the world's lost. Right, yeah. You've got to see the folly in that. Folly is not the word, of course. You have got to see it. Any other area that you take serious, just remember this. I told you a fact, as much as the opening one tonight. The truth is, ordinary people are too dumb to be serious. Now, at the ordinary level, they're not. And they can't see it. Nobody can point it out. It can't be, shouldn't be pointed out, doesn't need to be pointed out. If somebody that could see it tried to point it out, they would be the dumb one. Because then it'd be you, let's say it was you, and you realize, hey, everybody's too dumb to actually be serious. Because they don't know how to do it, they don't know over what areas they should be serious, and they don't see the purpose of it. And I do. Then if you stood up and say, hey, the world, could I have your attention a second? You people are too dumb to be playing serious. Then it's you, and what's the world's population now? Whatever it is, 360 billion. It would then be 359 billion people would turn and look at you, and now you are the dumb poster child for the universe. Do you hear me? And it's a fact. Individually, though, you have got to see that you are too dumb. I don't care what area it was, and I don't care your background, race, religion, sex, education, up to the point that you ever begin to be able to turn a corner and see anything. You were too dumb to be serious. And I don't give a damn what it was. Whether you think, well, listen, painting is very important. Painting's my life. The world, where would we be without painting? Well, you use it as a rhetorical question, but I'll answer it directly. You don't know where it would be, because you don't know the purpose of it. Well, I know I want to be a painter. I've always wanted to be a painter. I've always wanted to be a writer. I've always wanted to be a musician. I've always wanted to be a smart aleck. I've always wanted to be a recognized critic. I always wanted to push people around and make them like it. Whatever it is that's serious to you is dumb, because you don't understand it. You got no business being serious. Not in those areas. I'm not saying there's nothing to be serious about, but remember I pointed out, at that level, you don't know how to be serious. In every ways, if you ever begin to see it, in every ways that city people, that the rest of humanity is serious, the most charitable word, well, it's really the most becoming word, is unseemly. It's not, it's still dumb, but to see people being serious, to see somebody stand up and to say, I'd like to say a few words. As soon as they say that, it's unseemly. Well, I'd like to read my poetry, my poem that I wrote about death. All right, I'd like to read my poem that I wrote about life. Same thing. I have this serious piece of music I composed. In a 4D world, which is more than you realize, but in a 4D world, it would truly be embarrassing. But since I knew that wouldn't get unseemly in anybody, and it doesn't take, if you see it, of course, it does not take me or some traffic cop from another corner of the universe to point it out, is anytime you get serious, if you hadn't fallen right back to that level, you realize how unseemly. And you then begin to understand what real embarrassment is. Other people can't get embarrassed. Some of the blood rushes to their face, and uncontrollably their little eyeballs sometimes will drop to the floor. But they don't know anything about being embarrassed. They don't know anything about being unseemly. It's to find yourself being serious. Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. Whether somebody asks you that or not. It could be Ted Koppel on the TV asking somebody, and you think, well, wait till you hear my poem that I wrote about world tensions. If you could just see my car that has a bumper sticker about one good atom bomb atomic blast can ruin your whole day. That's serious. People, and it's unseemly. It's dumb. One part of being real middle class, and you know I mean that synodically, not metaphorically, but one part of being middle class, being cosmic cannon fodder, is to be unsuitably, unseemly serious. Now, we're not dealing in the world, any of you people just riding by on horseback, in the world of competing interest, remember, because the alternative is not to become Bozo the Clown. Well, at least not externally. Which I got to tell you, I know that some of you think that you can do it, but you're all rank amateurs. You have been exposed to a class act in that area, and you just never had it pointed out to you. But thank God that act, he's no longer around, so we don't have to talk about that. It is not to speak of competing interest that you act silly. But I'm telling you, a part you can just judge if you need any way to gauge it in it again. You can gauge how tied you still are to the city. You can gauge, let's be more straightforward again, you can gauge how dumb you are by the degree to which you are being, at any particular time, that you find yourself being serious. If you had intelligent eyes, it's just a dead giveaway, as they used to love to say. There's no hiding it. It is a part of being city-born, city-bred, city-primed, tenderized, waiting for the city slaughter. You're being covered with Adolph's meat tenderizer, and it goes under the term oftentimes, well, let's get serious here. And you think, yes, we must. The time is about near. I'm now 21. It is time to be serious. Or, yes, I guess I better get serious. I'll be 50 next week. Or I'll be 75. I guess it's time to get serious. Right. It's unsuitable, it's unseemly, and it's a sure gauge, sure proof, which means nothing, but it's sure proof of your dumbness. Unless you know, non-verbally, but unless you know enough to cover the three questions that I presented you, that you feel like that this is an area in which I've got to be serious. It demands seriousness. This is one of the areas. And how do you know to be serious? In what way to be serious? How are you sure that this is the area? And to what end? I gave you my guarantee. That's another way to look at what I just said. I'm giving you my guarantee. None of you are capable of being properly serious. Any way you're serious is unseemly. This does not conflict with your personal feelings toward people, toward your family, toward people in the group, toward your lover, your husband, wife. It's not that. It's not that you would not treat your children or your family in a manner demanding of your position. See, I was trying not to say treat them seriously. But it has nothing to do, it is not in conflict with you treating those that you care about, your blood kin, in the ways in which you should do it. But that the relationship in and of itself, that you being human gives you not the right, but the damn duty to be serious. And you don't know how, you don't know about what, and you don't know for what purpose. Totally unsuitable. Personally, unbecoming. Generally speaking, extremely dumb. Dumb. Huh? 30. 30 is a dumb number, isn't it? No. I think we'll have the end of the public tape, and I'm going to say something to the other people in the excursion. So here we go. The rest of you, ta-ta. Back. One thing for everybody, here, everywhere else, is this continues to happen, that even people who have been around for a while, even some of the older, ancient people involved with this, there is this inclination to lapse in to a kind of almost thought coma pattern that makes some of you, oftentimes very subtly, but you got to be really dumb to think that it escapes my notice, but you begin to treat this, everything involved, your involvement with it, this, me, everybody else, this, your involvement with it, that you begin to treat it much too casually, and specifically in this kind of way. It's beginning to pop up more and more for me to be able to name it. Too casual in the sense that you entertain thoughts that this could be no more than a hobby or even a joke. And I got to tell you, this ain't no joke. It may be funny, but this is no joke. And it is not a hobby. And as far as a little excursion, a neuralizing excursion. I know you people like stuff that's easier, that has to do with walking, talking to somebody, going somewhere. So I know how hard it is to just present just an outright, straightforward, neuralizing excursion. I know how hard it is, but I don't care. Within the institutions of the city, and let me make, these are the institutions. This about covers it. The political, that is the government. The intellectual, that is academic. The artistic. The military. The business. Did I name 6? No, didn't I name 6? I thought I had it down to 6. The governmental, the artistic, the economic, the intellectual, the religious. Is that what I left out? The religious. Is that 6? Military. Is that 6 now? Not 7. Somebody said 7. No. Political, come on folks. It's political, artistic, economic, intellectual, military, religious. Economic was business. Now, those are my 6, and I'm going to stick with them. Till further notice. Of those institutions, which one never has to ask a customer if they were satisfied with the goods? For those of you that can either neuralize or even just kind of think real hard, this is good. Because part of your laughter is, you don't know it, I'll go ahead and tell you, part of your laughter is that if you thought about it for another second, I saw, why was that funny? Some of you at least would come up and say, well, after I gave you a few seconds, maybe a minute or so, is that, wait, from a certain view, they could all do that. I said, which one? So I had one in mind for a particular reason. And behind that, it would be a tweak to what end his life arranged that way. So bypass, or you can go ahead with your own brain. You might as well have fun with your own brain if you want to. At least it won't make hair grow in your palm. So play with your own brain if you want to, and look at how one or the other, or 2 or 3, in a sense, would qualify that they never have to ask a customer if they were satisfied with the goods. But remember, I ask which one never, throughout history, right up until today, up until tomorrow, unless they call off tomorrow and change it. Which one of those institutions never has to ask a customer if they were satisfied with the goods? All of you other people out there hanging on, it may get even more blatant for those of you who enjoy blatantness. And it's been getting a little more blatant right under your eyes. You mean I didn't notice? What's good is to hint what you're going to do, and people still don't notice. At least it helps orient me, and I still know where I am in the universe. As long as I can hint and people still don't, much less state outright, and people go, huh. It's good to know where you are, right? But at any rate, for you out-of-towners, I was going to say ta-ta to you personally.